Yeah, give me a rundown.
So
What you not understanding?
yeah. So you probably didn't see this in the first place. So I was just gonna walk through it. So, I'll just read it, I guess. Create quest function deploys a quest contract using create, and of course this is deterministic. If you use the create one opcode, not the create two. Um,
Yep.
so it says at the same time, some of the other chains at deploy the, or with Quest Factory will be deployed are suspicious. Suspicious was weird in this context. I'm not sure if they meant suspicious or if they meant vulnerable to reorg attacks. I was kind of confused by that phrasing, but I maybe I'm misunderstanding that. Um, so um, here you may be convinced that the polygon has I said very useful. Okay, attack scenario. Imagine that Alice deploys a quest and then sends funds to it. Bob sees that the network block reorg happens and calls create quest. Thus, it creates quest with an address to which Alice sends funds. Then Alice's transactions are executed. Alice transfers funds to Bob's controlled quest. So the impact: if users rely on the address derivation in advance to try to deploy a wallet with the same address on different EVM chains, any funds sent to the wallet could potentially be withdrawn by anybody else. All in all, it could be left with user funds. So it says use create two with the salt. Is this the message sender and the reward token address to solve this? So I'm just kind of confused. A, why this affects other chains, and B, why do we need a block reorganization for this attack to work? Because if we go down here, I think it talks about some steps of honest user creates quest A and then sends the funds to this. So malicious actor could come in and create a malicious quest, which would I'm confused why you can't do that on a front running, because if you front ran this and you created a quest, they would create a quest B, but then they would still send the funds to quest A. So I guess there's kind of two things here. Why does it matter we're doing to two chains, and why does this have to be a block reorganization attack for this to work?
Yeah, I don't think it necessarily does have to be a block reorganization attack for it to work. And one of the things that happens with Code Arena a lot, and full disclosure, I have not reviewed this particular project, so
Yeah.
I didn't participate as a warden or judge or anything. So I'm kind of talking just from very cursory overview here, but it does seem as though generally anyone who's paying attention could theoretically uh, get in front of that transaction, which is funding the wallet, or the address rather. So it does seem like this could happen anywhere where the mempool is public.
Okay.
But we could see if Kirk is available, see if what his view on it was. One sec.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys hopping on too. I was really struggling. Yeah.
Go. I don't think it implies more damage. I think it's just a risk of the fact that the address is being created before the funding. So the if you see this funding transaction firing off at the address which hasn't um, I think what we're assuming here is that they're firing both of these requests in succession. And so someone's getting ahead of one of them and then allowing the second one to go through. So the issue is more about the fact that we're not really, it's assuming that the user isn't checking that their create transaction succeeded.
I see. Oh, Dan, can you explain for me, please, what is a reorg and how does it happen?
So this is a little bit outside of my comfort zone in terms of what the major risks are, because I've never deployed a project that utilizes this approach. But the reorg is basically saying, we have a block which is already kind of formed, right? And then we allow, and then basically the the nature of the agreement among the miners allows for that block to actually happen after the one that it was originally intended to happen inside of.
Maxwell, have any view on that? You know that? You have more information on that?
This was new to me as well. I think that the block reorg as part of the attack was also confusing to me.
Because for me, the reorg happens when you have an uncle block. So you have like this other leg of the chain that's developing, and it got too big at some point, and then you have competing legs, and then you need to reorg to have it, working. I guess.
Yeah, in the article or in the write community seems like a good source. At the same time, if there's a bug or due to malicious attack, this results in a temporary duplication of said blockchain. What are the consequences?
So the reorg is related to the chain ID in some sense, because would be more related to replay attacks.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really
Yeah. I'm also not fully understanding why this is a problem within the context of this particular contest. I need to dig a little bit further into the contest.
Maxwell, can you just read for us, please, this whole thing?
Yeah. You want me to read this alchemy article or the report? Okay, cool. Reorgs in the context of blockchains result in a block being removed from the blockchain since a longer chain has been created. This further results in different miners working on adding blocks of transaction with similar difficulty to the chain simultaneously. This happens because the miner that adds to the next block has to make a decision on which side of the fork is correct or canonical chain. Once the miner has chosen the fork or canonical chain, the other chain will be lost. A reorganization attack refers to nodes receiving blocks from a new chain while the old chain continues to exist. In this case, the chain would be split and create a fork or a duplicate version of the blockchain. Blockchain reorg is caused when two blocks are posted at the same time. Short 1 and 2 block reorgs that happen often with network latency, but when reorgs extend for longer than 1 or 2 blocks, that they can lead to malicious attacks or even network failure.
I got it. So the reason they're calling this out as a reorg issue is they're saying that the user thinks that their create transaction has gone through correctly, and in reality, we've had a kind of temporary fork of the chain, right? And there's been two create transactions, and then the reorg, the chain that's decided as the correct one winds up being the one where the malicious user created the wallet or the address. And then after this point, the user sends the funds to the address thinking that they created it, but in reality, the malicious user created it.
Gotcha.
No, what I don't understand is how the malicious created is able to get the same address if we're talking about deterministic stuff.
Basically, because they ran the transaction at what is effectively the exact same time as the non-malicious user.
Thanks for that,
It seems
Dan.
like they're
That's actually very enlightening, you know? So they got the same randomness seed, let's say, to create the transaction, right?
Well, I think the issue is more that there isn't the randomized seed built into the actual code, and they're actually sending all of the information um, along with the transaction. So there isn't a randomization of the address, and as a result, um, two transactions can generate the same address.
Bros, I'm gonna tell you guys, I'll never catch like this thing, you know? This is a very, like, very nerdy and very. I know there's a lot of replay attacks, but this is not very common, right?
I honestly, I don't know how common it is. I haven't actually deployed anything on Polygon, so I haven't dove into this specifically. I'm pinging Kirk. I'll see if maybe we can have another conversation with him later. I don't know what. Oh, it looks like he's online. Hang on a sec.
yeah. Yeah, this is so sick. I wasn't expecting to get a response that fast, and then now we're all talking about it. This is yeah, this is cool. Yeah, I think
One
I
sec. He's available on phone. He doesn't have a computer with him though. Hold one sec.
Saying something, Maxwell?
Oh, yeah. I think I made an assumption here. So I thought that the user was going to execute this um, one after the other, kind of blindly. But I think the reason the reorg is brought up is because the user goes, "Oh, my create request succeeded. Now I will send funds to it." And because of the reorganization, they get screwed out of the funds being sent to them because the malicious actors saw that this organization was going to happen and built their contract there first. Yeah, put it there first.
Yeah, I think I get it. It's just a little bit complicated to understand because we assume that, you know, deterministic, but it makes sense, you know, it makes sense, but it's just a very, like you said, like you first said when you put it, you know, it's a very interesting, I'd say, right? Situation.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like this is how you would get high and unique findings on these sorts of platforms. So, like I was looking at a contest today, and this was a medium, yeah. If you like, I was looking at a report today, and there were like 40 people that duped it, and that was really wild to me. Looking, if you find these sorts of not this one, another bug, but I yeah, only one person report. Yeah, only one person reported this one though. I think. And this is how you get those juicy high findings that are solos. This is probably those more esoteric things. So this is stuff you need to study if you want to get the good
Maxwell, you
DAOs.
know the secret of the pros?
Yeah, what is it?
They know how to tie low vulnerabilities, and Dan knows a lot about this. They know how to tie low vulnerabilities into high ones. You know, they know how to connect
Mm,
them into making a high. You know.
yeah, totally.
All right, so he's at a beach house and can't hop in voice chat right now, but I just asked him like how easy is it to force a reorg on Polygon? What's the likelihood of this issue occurring? And he said he was on the fence about that one because of its likelihood, but decided to leave it as medium because um, the the risk is decent, but the likelihood of a reorg is pretty high on Polygon. He says. Um, I'm just kind of wondering about the ability to actually force a reorg.
But to force a reorg, you need to have like 51% of the network, right?
Not necessarily. Eventually, it'll resolve through the through the majority, but because of the nodes, it's possible the reorgs happen pretty often. He's saying, and it's possible that a reorg could happen with just a small group of validators that are all coming together.
Yeah, I understand. Bro, reorg is a word that I heard so much and I don't know what it means. I kind of know by the word, but when it happens, why it happens.
Just realized that you messaged a guy that was on, that was one of the judges of this. Literally just realized that.
Bro,
Yeah, the judge.
bro, you only hang with chads, man. There's no fucking. You're in the open sense, man. Dan,
I just dropped the blocks forked Polygon scan link that he sent me, and yeah, it's
Awesome.
happening all the time.
Dan, I want to talk about DAOs now. Can you explain your view on DAOs now for us?
Yeah, one sec. Yeah, so the challenge with so DAO stands for decentralized autonomous organization, right? So these things are definitely organizations, and and we are all organized around what is usually a relatively common goal. Most DAOs, though, they have the people who are involved in trying to make the project happen, and then there's a whole bunch of stakeholders where their goal is, can be or is usually how much money can I make, right? As with so many things in this industry. So the results, I think, is that the voting, when you have a one token, one vote system, the voting tends to just follow whatever the core team thinks. When you have a delegated system, the people who have the tokens tend to not pay any attention at all. And I think that most of the proponents of delegation kind of take the approach that most people don't want to pay attention, and even if they do, they don't have the time to pay attention. And as a result, what you wind up having with a lot of these organizations is a group of people who came together to create it, and kind of driving what happens and how it happens. And so, there was a lot of talk at in side conversations I was having at DAO Tokyo the other day, where people were saying that anywhere from maybe 50 to 140 150 people can actively participate in a community before it gets overwhelming and the noise becomes too much for people who are not really active to participate. And so more and more DAOs are kind of creating sub DAOs, groups that have a more narrow focus within the community. All of these things are, I guess, a level of decentralization, but in my view, most of them don't wind up exceeding the decentralization that you have on any normal corporation that has a board overseeing it, a board of different stakeholders.
It's just hard for me to see useful DAOs, just like crypto, like what are useful tokens. very hard to see.
Right. Well, the two problems are one and the same, right? Like DAOs typically launch a token, and the token is used in order to, facilitate voting, but also as a financial mechanism. And as a result, people come in, they kind of buy a token and speculate on it, and then they either don't vote or they delegate to whoever is most aggressively pro number go up, right? And that's not really aligned usually with the goals of the project. So a useful DAO might be Gnosis, right? The safe DAO. This is sorry. Sure, but Code 4 is more of a I think it's more of a decentralized organization than it's a decentralized autonomous organization. And I think there are a lot of decentralized organizations in this space. But if you look at the way that Code 4 operates, right, the team is really, really actively focused on making sure that everybody has a voice. And that voice is not tied to the number of tokens that you have. Like, sure, there's some votes on directionality and, whether funds move in a specific direction and things like that. But the vast majority of the kind of decision making that happens starts with a community member that may or may not have any of the tokens, who just says, hey, it'd be kind of cool if things work this way, or this is a problem I see and here's how we can resolve it. And then the reason that works so well in Code 4 is like the team, Sock and his whole crew make sure that everybody is heard, and that whenever something like that is brought up, it's discussed with all of the stakeholders, over an extended period of time prior to being implemented in one way or the